When two of the most popular sports supplements show up together on a label, the marketing often promises synergistic gains. In this presentation, we're going to peel back that hype. We'll explore how creatine and beta-alanine work individually, what happens when you combine them, and whether stacking them really gives you more than taking them alone. Think of this as a myth-busting tour for lifters who care about results, not just fancy claims. Creatine and beta-alanine are everywhere in gym culture, from pre-workout powders to capsule stacks. Both supplements aim to improve performance, but the real question is whether taking them together actually delivers more than taking them separately. We're about to find out by breaking down the science instead of relying on marketing slogans. Stacking promises to combine creatine's energy system with beta-alanine's buffering system. That sounds appealing, but hype doesn't equal evidence. In the next few minutes, we'll see if the research supports the idea that the combination is greater than the sum of its parts, or if you're paying extra for a fancy label. Your muscles rely on different energy systems depending on how long you're working. During the first few seconds of an all-out effort, the ATP phosphocreatine system provides quick bursts of energy by tapping into phosphocreatine. As you move past about 10 seconds toward 4 minutes, the glycolytic system takes over, breaking down glucose to lactate and hydrogen ions. These hydrogen ions make the muscle environment more acidic. The main causes of fatigue in high-intensity exercise are therefore phosphocreatine depletion and the buildup of acidity. Imagine a graph with time along the horizontal axis and two lines on the vertical axis, one showing phosphocreatine levels and the other showing hydrogen ion buildup. In the first 0 to 10 seconds of a sprint, phosphocreatine is high but rapidly declines. As time progresses, hydrogen ions accumulate, peaking around the 2 to 4 minute mark. This illustrates why short, explosive efforts run out of fuel quickly and longer high-intensity efforts are limited by acid buildup. Different supplements address each of these problems. Fatigue isn't just a feeling. It has two main physiological drivers. First, when phosphocreatine stores drop, your ability to regenerate ATP slows down, so power output declines. Second, glycolysis produces hydrogen ions, which lower the pH inside muscle cells and interfere with enzyme function and muscle contraction. Different systems require different supplements. Creatine to replenish phosphocreatine and beta-alanine to increase buffering capacity. Creatine is a compound found naturally in meat and fish and stored in your muscles as phosphocreatine. It's essentially a fuel reserve. When you need to regenerate ATP during heavy lifts or short sprints, creatine donates a phosphate group to ADP to quickly produce ATP again. That's why creatine supplementation is most effective for high-power efforts lasting less than about 30 seconds. The reason creatine works is simple. It increases phosphocreatine stores, so you can regenerate ATP more rapidly during explosive movements. Decades of research and meta-analyses show that creatine supplementation improves maximal strength, power, and repeated sprint performance. One recent meta-analysis reported a standardized mean difference of about 0.43 compared with placebo, highlighting a robust and consistent effect on strength and power. Most people follow a loading protocol to saturate muscle creatine quickly. That means taking about 20 grams per day split into 4 5-gram servings for 5 to 7 days. This is roughly 0.3 grams per kilogram of body weight. After that loading phase, you maintain your levels with 3 to 5 grams per day. Research shows this protocol can increase muscle creatine and phosphocreatine stores by between 10 and 40%. An alternative is to skip the loading phase and take about 3 grams per day for 4 weeks, but that method takes longer to achieve saturation. Either way, creatine works quickly and has a long track record of safety. Beta-alanine is a non-proteinogenic amino acid. Your body doesn't use it to build proteins. Instead, it combines with histidine to form carnosine, a dipeptide stored in muscle fibers. Carnosine concentrations are highest in fast-twitch fibers, and it plays a key role as an intracellular buffer, helping to soak up hydrogen ions when the muscle environment becomes acidic. Beta-alanine is the rate-limiting precursor for carnosine, which means supplying more beta-alanine through your diet or supplements is the only way to raise muscle carnosine. Carnosine accepts hydrogen ions and delays the drop in pH that contributes to fatigue. That makes beta-alanine supplementation particularly useful for high-intensity efforts that last roughly 1 to 4 minutes. Think 400-meter sprints or high-rep weight training sets. Meta-analyses have found that consistently taking beta-alanine offers a modest but meaningful performance gain of about 2 to 3% for these kinds of efforts. Effective beta-alanine use is all about consistent loading. You need about 3 to 6 grams per day. divided into smaller servings of around 1 gram each to avoid the tingling sensation that can occur with larger doses. At these levels, muscle carnosine increases by roughly 40 to 60% after 4 weeks of supplementation and can reach around 80% after about 10 weeks. There is no immediate effect. Beta-alanine only works when you build up carnosine over time, so missing days will slow your progress. What do the trials actually show? Beta-alanine consistently improves performance in repeated high-intensity efforts lasting 1 to 4 minutes. The gains are relatively small, on the order of 2 to 3%, but for competitive athletes, that can be the difference between winning and losing. Studies also agree that beta-alanine doesn't meaningfully improve maximal strength or steady-state endurance, so it's best used when acid buildup is the limiting factor. Here's where stacking comes in. Creatine supplies energy for very short bursts, up to about 30 seconds, by restoring ATP rapidly. Beta-alanine increases carnosine, which buffers hydrogen ions and helps you sustain high power output for a minute or more. In theory, combining them should allow you to be explosive and then stay in the fight longer by delaying the onset of acidosis. That's the rationale behind many pre-workout stacks. Think of it as adding two different systems together. The energy system boosted by creatine allows you to produce a higher initial power output. The buffering system enhanced by beta-alanine helps you manage the acid load during the next minute or two. Because they act through distinct pathways, it makes sense to ask whether they can be additive, giving you more sustained power than either supplement alone. Recent systematic reviews suggest there is some truth to the synergy idea, at least for repeated sprint and high-intensity interval efforts. One Wingate cycling study found that combining creatine and beta-alanine increased mean power across multiple sprints and reduced fatigue more than creatine alone. In that scenario, creatine provided the initial burst and beta-alanine helped sustain power across subsequent efforts. These studies support the idea that the stack could be beneficial for athletes who need to repeat short, intense bursts with short rest periods. The same cannot be said for maximal strength or aerobic endurance. Research shows that stacking beta-alanine with creatine offers no significant advantage over creatine alone for 1 repetition maximum strength. For aerobic performance measures like maximal oxygen uptake or time to exhaustion, co-supplementation doesn't produce meaningful improvements either. When it comes to changes in body composition, the evidence is mixed. Some studies report slight improvements in lean mass, while others see no difference. Putting all that evidence together yields a clear picture. For repeated sprints and high-intensity interval training, the stack tends to improve mean power and reduce fatigue, and the supporting evidence is moderate. For maximal strength, there's no significant difference between stacking and taking creatine alone, and the evidence is weak. Body composition findings are mixed. For aerobic endurance, there is no benefit to adding beta-alanine to creatine, and the studies supporting this conclusion are also weak. In short, the stack isn't a magic bullet. It has context-specific benefits. Next, we need to weigh what you get against what you pay. Creatine is inexpensive, has a massive evidence base, and produces clear performance gains. Beta-alanine costs more, delivers modest benefits, and demands a loading period. When you add them together, you incur extra cost and compliance obligations for what is, at best, a marginal increase in performance. The return on investment calculation becomes important here. Compliance matters. Once your muscles are saturated, creatine maintenance is easy. 3 to 5 grams per day with or without food. Beta-alanine is less convenient. You need 3 to 6 grams per day, split into servings of no more than about 2 grams, and you must take it consistently for at least 4 weeks before you notice an effect. Stacking them means committing to both regimens. If you're not willing to be consistent, you won't see any synergy. Stacking might make sense for highly trained athletes who are already pushing the limits and are looking for every small advantage. It also appeals to sports that require repeated sprints or high-intensity interval efforts. Combat sports, CrossFit, rugby, football, and other team sports fall into that category. Advanced lifters who want to sustain high training volumes and minimize fatigue between sets could also benefit from the combination. If you're a beginner or a recreational lifter, creatine alone will give you most of the performance benefits at a fraction of the cost. Athletes focused on pure maximal strength or hypertrophy, where rest periods are long and acidity isn't the primary limiter, won't see much extra benefit from beta-alanine. And of course, if you're on a tight budget or simply don't want to juggle multiple supplements, there's little reason to invest in the stack. When you plot relative benefit against relative cost, creatine comes out on top, high benefit at low cost. Beta-alanine provides a moderate benefit, but at a higher cost. largely because you need to take it daily for weeks. The combined stack has the highest cost and only adds a modest extra benefit. So the decision comes down to how much you're willing to spend for incremental gains and how disciplined you are with supplementation. To wrap up, creatine has strong evidence for improving strength and power, with effect sizes around 0.4 and performance gains ranging from 5 to 15% in some measures. Beta-alanine has moderate evidence for improving high-intensity endurance, offering about a 2 to 3% improvement in efforts lasting a minute or more. Stacking them produces mixed outcomes. It can be additive for repeated sprints or high-intensity intervals, but it doesn't enhance maximal strength or endurance beyond what creatine already provides. Ultimately, choose your supplementation strategy based on your sport, your budget, and your willingness to stick to a regimen. Don't just chase marketing hype.